The night air smelled of smoke and iron as Leela and Aiden ran across the empty lot, their lungs burning with every breath. The black van's headlights swept across the cracked asphalt, forcing them to dive behind a pile of abandoned wooden pallets. Lila's glowing mark was faint now, but still pulsed with heat under her skin, like embers refusing to die out. "We can't keep running like this," Aiden whispered, his voice strained. "We need to find your father. He knows more than he's telling us." Leela wiped the sweat from her forehead with trembling hands. "You think I don't know that? But after tonight, I'm not sure he'll even talk to me. He'll just tell me to hide again." Aiden's eyes were fierce. "Then we make him talk. Whatever this is, it's bigger than just you, Leela. Those men knew about the mark. That means they've been watching you." Leela swallowed hard. She hated how right he was. For years, she'd believed her father's rules were just overprotective. Paranoid, don't talk to strangers. Don't stay out late, don't ever show what's under your top. But now, everything made sense. He wasn't just paranoid. He was hiding something dark. "We can't go back to the hall," Aiden said. "They'll be watching that place." "Where would your father go?" Leela thought for a moment. "He has a workshop near the old train tracks. It's where he disappears for hours when he doesn't want anyone to find him." "Then that's where we go," Aiden said. They moved carefully through the shadows, staying low to avoid the van's lights. Every sound, the crunch of gravel under their feet, the distant bark of a dog, felt too loud, too sharp. Finally, they reached the fence that surrounded the abandoned rail yard. Lila found a gap big enough to squeeze through. Aiden followed, brushing dust off his jeans as they stepped onto the tracks. The workshop was a rusted metal shed at the far end of the yard. The windows were dark, but a faint light flickered inside, like someone moving with a lantern. "He's here, Lila," whispered. Aiden glanced at her. "Are you ready for this?" She hesitated. "I don't know, but I have to be." They crept up to the door. Lila's heart pounded as she knocked softly. No answer. She knocked again, louder this time. "Dad, it's me." There was a pause, then the sound of something heavy scraping across the floor. The door creaked open an inch, and her father's face appeared in the gap. His eyes were tired, his jaw tight. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "Do you know how dangerous it is to come here now?" "You left me," Leela said, her voice trembling. "Those men were chasing me. You told me to run, but you stayed behind. Why?" "Because I was buying you time," he snapped. "If they caught you, everything would be over." Aiden stepped forward. "Who are they? What do they want with Lila?" Her father's eyes narrowed at Aiden. "And who are you?" "A friend," Aiden said. "Someone who's not going to let you keep lying to her." "Lying," her father repeated, his voice sharp. "Yes," Aiden said. "About the mark. About why you did this to her. She has a right to know." Her father's face darkened. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Then tell us," Lila said, stepping closer to the door. "Tell me why I have this. Tell me why they're after me." For a moment, her father just stared at her. The anger in his eyes softened, replaced by something heavier, pain, maybe even guilt. He opened the door fully and stepped aside. "Get in, both of you, before someone sees you." They slipped inside. The workshop smelled of oil and metal. Tools were scattered across the tables, and strange symbols were etched into pieces of scrap wood. Aiden glanced at them but said nothing. Her father closed the door and locked it. "You want answers?" he said, turning to face them. "Fine, but once you know the truth, there's no going back." "I don't care," Leela said. "I'm done living in the dark." He sighed and sat on a stool, rubbing his face with calloused hands. "The mark on your body isn't just a scar, Lila. It's a seal. A brand left by people who believe you're something more than human." Lila's stomach dropped. "What? They call it a burn of power," he continued. "They believe children born with certain traits, certain bloodlines, carry abilities that can change the world. But they don't see it as a gift. They see it as a weapon. When you were just a baby, they came for you." Lila's eyes widened. "Who?" "People I used to work for," he said, his voice low. "A group that experiments on kids like you. They find them, mark them, and try to control whatever's inside them. I didn't know what they were doing until it was too late. When I found out, I took you and ran." Aiden's fists clenched. "So that mark, they put it on her." Her father nodded. "To track her, to claim her." Lila felt sick. "You knew all this time, and you never told me." "I was trying to protect you," he said. "The less you knew, the safer you were." "No," Lila said, her voice sharp. "I wasn't safe. I was just blind, and now they found me anyway." Her father's shoulders slumped. "I knew this day would come. I just hoped I'd have more time." Aiden stepped closer. "You said there were others. How many kids like Leela are out there?" Her father hesitated. "Dozens, maybe hundreds. Most of them didn't survive." Leela's breath caught. "And the other one, the one you told me about, where are they?" Her father's eyes darkened. "Gone. Taken by the same people who want you now." Leela's hands curled into fists. "Then we have to find them. We have to stop these people." Her father shook his head. "You don't understand. These people aren't just powerful, they're everywhere. The moment you reveal who you are, you'll have a target on your back for the rest of your life." "I already have one," Leela said. "I'm done hiding." Before her father could respond, the sound of tires screeching cut through the night. Headlights spilled through the cracks in the walls. Aiden peeked through a window. They're here, he whispered. Her father stood up, his face grim. We need to get out. There's a back door. Move now. But as they reached the door, it burst open. The men in dark uniforms stormed in, their flashlights blinding, hands where we can see them. One of them barked. Lila froze. Her mark burned hot, reacting to the fear racing through her veins. Aiden grabbed a wrench from the workbench. Stay behind me, he said. Her father stepped forward, his hands raised. She's just a kid, let her go. The leader of the group smirked. We don't want you, we want what's ours. His eyes flicked to Lila's chest, as if he could see the mark glowing beneath her top. Lila's breath quickened. I'm not yours, she spat. The man laughed. Oh, but you are. That mark belongs to us, and so do you. Something inside, Lila snapped. The fear turned into anger, and the anger turned into heat. The mark flared, lighting up the room with a fiery glow. Stop her, the man shouted. Two men lunged at her, but Aiden swung the wrench, knocking one to the ground. The other grabbed Lila's arm, but the heat from her skin burned his hand, forcing him to let go. Lila's father grabbed her shoulders. Lila, listen. To me, you have to stay calm, or you'll lose control. I don't care, she shouted, the fire building inside her. I'm not going with them. The air shimmered with heat, and the walls began to blacken. The men backed away, fear flashing across their faces. She's unstable, one of them yelled. Take her down. A stun gun cracked. It's electric, snap filling the air. Lila screamed as the prongs hit her shoulder, but instead of knocking her out, the electricity seemed to feed the fire. Her mark burned brighter, and the stun gun melted in the man's hand. Aiden stared in shock. Lila, I can't stop it, she cried, her body shaking. Her father grabbed her face, forcing her to look at him. You have to remember what I told you. Breathe. Focus. You're stronger than them. Lila's breath came fast and shallow, but she tried. She closed her eyes, forcing the heat down. Bit by bit, the glow dimmed, the fire retreating, but the men weren't done. Grab her. The leader barked. Aiden stepped in front of her, ready to fight again. But there were too many of them. Then her father did something unexpected. He pulled a strange device from his pokita, small metal disc with glowing symbols etched into it. Get back, he said. The men hesitated. What is that? Her father pressed a button, and the disc emitted a sharp, high-pitched sound. The lights in the workshop flickered, and the men staggered, clutching their ears. Now, he shouted. Aiden grabbed Lila's hand, and they bolted through the back door. The night air hit them like a wave, but they didn't stop running. Behind them, they could hear the chaos as her father held the men back. Dad, Lila cried, looking over her shoulder. Go, he yelled. I'll find you. Tears blurred her vision as Aiden pulled her toward the fence. They slipped through the gap and ran into the dark streets, the sound of shouting fading behind them. Finally, when they were far enough, they collapsed in an alley, gasping for breath. Lila's whole body trembled. I can't do this. Aiden put a hand on her shoulder. Yes, you can. You're stronger than you think. She shook her head. They'll never stop. They'll keep coming. Then we fight, Aiden said, his voice firm. We find out who they are, what they want, and we stop them. Lila stared at him, fear and hope battling in her eyes. But what if I'm the thing they want? Then we make sure they never get you, he said. She swallowed hard, her fingers brushing the faint glow of the mark. Then we need answers. All of them before it's too late. The sound of sirens echoed in the distance. Lila and Aiden knew they had little time before the hunt began again. Tomorrow, Aiden said, standing and offering his hand. We start tomorrow. We find the truth. Lila took his hand, her voice barely a whisper. And what if we don't like what we find? The sun rose weak and pale over the city, painting the crumbling rooftops with a dull orange light. Lila hadn't slept at all. She and Aiden had found a deserted parking garage to hide in, curling up on the cold concrete floor with only their fear to keep them awake. Every sound during the night, a car horn, a dog barking, a distant siren, had made Lila's heart race. She felt the mark under her top still throbbing faintly, like a warning whispering through her veins. Aiden sat a few feet away, leaning against a pillar, his eyes half closed but alert. He looked tired, but his determination hadn't wavered. When Lila finally stirred, rubbing her sore arms, he gave her a small, tired smile. Morning, he said. Morning, she murmured, her voice hoarse. You didn't sleep, did you? She shook her head. I keep seeing them, those men, and my father shouting at me to run. Aiden pushed himself up and crossed to her. He bought us time, Lila. He's still out there. We'll find him again. Lila's eyes welled up, but she blinked the tears back. What if they took him? Then we get him back, Aiden said firmly. But first, we need answers. Lila nodded slowly. She hated how scared she felt, how small. But deep down, she knew Aiden was right. Running wasn't enough anymore. The only way to survive was to understand why this was happening. Do you know where to start? She asked. He hesitated. Last night, when your father was talking, he mentioned something about a group, people who experiment on kids like you. Maybe we can find them. Lila frowned. How? We don't even know their name. Aiden crouched beside her. Your father might have left something behind. Documents, files, anything. That workshop we were in. We had to leave too quickly to search it. We could go back. Leela's stomach tightened. What if they're still there? Then we'll be careful, Aiden said. But if we don't find something soon, they'll keep coming until they catch you. Leela wrapped her arms around herself. I hate this. I hate feeling like I'm a thing they want to own. You're not a thing, Aiden said softly. You're Leela. You're strong, and you're more than what they think you are. His words warmed her chest, even as fear still gnawed at her. She took a shaky breath. Okay, let's go back. By mid-morning, they were making their way back to the old train yard. The streets were quieter now, but every car that passed made Leela tense. She kept her hood up, hiding her face. While Aiden scanned the area for anything suspicious, when they reached the yard, the workshop looked deserted. The front door hung slightly open, creaking in the wind. Aiden held up his hand for Leela to wait and crept forward, peeking inside. Looks clear, he whispered. Lila followed him in, her eyes scanning the room where the fight had happened. Burn marks blackened the walls where her power had flared the night before, and the tools on the tables were scattered everywhere. Start looking, Aiden said. They searched every corner of the workshop. Aiden rifled through drawers while Leela examined the strange symbols etched into pieces of metal and wood. One symbol, a circle with 3 jagged lines through it, made her shiver. It looked almost like the one glowing on her skin. Aiden, she said, holding up the piece of wood. Look at this. Doesn't it look like your mark? He finished, staring at it. Yeah, it's almost the same. Why would my father have this here? Maybe he was trying to figure it out, Aiden suggested. Or maybe it's something he used to belong to. Leela's hands trembled as she set the wood down. I don't know if I want to know the answer to that. Before Aiden could respond, he found a metal box under one of the workbenches. It was locked, but the lock looked old. He grabbed a hammer and smashed it open. Inside were papers, photographs, and a small flash drive. Aiden pulled them out and spread them across the table. Lila leaned over, her eyes widening as she saw the photos. Children, dozens of them. Some looked her age, some younger. Each had strange markings burned into their skin. Leela's breath caught. These are the others, she whispered. Aiden flipped through the photos, his expression grim. Some of these kids, they don't look okay. They look like they were in pain. Lila's stomach churned as she picked up one of the photos. A boy with dark eyes stared back at her, a mark glowing faintly on his neck. He couldn't have been older than 12. There's writing on the back, Aiden said, turning one over. Loa ki project Helios. Helios, Lela repeated. What does that mean? I don't know, Aiden said, but it sounds like the name of whatever this program is. The one your father ran from? Leela's hands shook as she picked up the flash drive. This might have everything. We just need to find a way to read it. Before Aiden could answer, the sound of a car door slamming echoed from outside. Someone's here, he whispered. Lila's heart pounded. They stuffed the papers and photos back into the box. But Aiden kept the flash drive and one photo of the boy. Come on, he said, grabbing her hand. They slipped out the back door just as footsteps entered the workshop. Lila and Aiden crouched behind a rusted train car, watching as 2 men in dark uniforms walked in. Search it, one of them said. The girl might come back. Leela's pulse raced. Aiden put a finger to his lips, and they moved silently through the yard, keeping low until they were far enough to run. They didn't stop until they were back on the main road, their breath ragged. That was too close, Aiden said. Lila nodded, clutching the flash drive tightly. We need to see what's on this. Maybe it will tell us what Project Helios is. Do you know anyone with a computer? Aiden asked. Leela thought. For a moment there's a library a few blocks away. They have public computers. They made their way to the library, trying to blend in with the few people on the street. Once inside, they found a quiet corner and logged into one of the computers. Aiden plugged in the flash drive, and a folder popped up on the screen. It was full of files, all with strange names. Subject_01. Burn sequence experiment logs. Leela's hand hovered over the mouse. Do we open one? Aiden nodded. Start with the first one. She clicked on subject_01. A video opened. It showed a dimly lit room with a child sitting in a chair. The child was crying. A man's voice, cold and clinical, said, Subject_01. Test 1 of burn initiation. Lila's stomach turned as a glowing brand was pressed against the child's skin. The child screamed. Turn it off, Aiden said quickly, his face pale. Leela closed the video, tears stinging her eyes. This is what they do, she whispered. This is what they wanted to do to me. Aiden clenched his fists. We have to stop them. She clicked on another file, experiment logs. It was a document filled with notes about abilities, fire, light, heat linked to the marks. One line made Lila freeze. Subject_07. Lila, age 4, marked with Helios seal. Power. Dormant. Aiden leaned closer. That's you. Leela's breath caught. They tracked me. They wrote down everything. Then, at the bottom of the document, another name appeared. Subject_08. Elias status. Active Elias, Aiden said. Do you know who that is? Lila shook her head. No, but if his status is active, that means he's alive, Aiden finished. Before they could read more, a shadow fell over them. Step away from the computer, a deep voice said. Leela spun around. One of the men from the van was standing there, his hand resting on something under his jacket. Aiden moved. In front of her. We're not going with you. The man smirked. You don't have a choice. Lila's mark began to glow, reacting to her fear. Don't, the man said, his voice sharp. You'll burn this whole place down. Leela's hands trembled. Then leave us alone. The man stepped closer, his eyes fixed on her. Give us the flash drive, and maybe we'll let you walk out of here. Aiden shook his head. Not happening. Suddenly, the man lunged. Aiden shoved Leela aside and grabbed the flash drive, but the man was fast. They struggled, knocking over chairs and tables. Run. Aiden shouted at Leela. She hesitated, torn between fear and the urge to fight. Then the man struck Aiden, sending him crashing to the floor. Something inside Leela snapped. Her mark flared, brighter than ever. The air shimmered with heat as a wave. A fire erupted from her body, forcing the man back. He cursed, shielding his face from the heat. She's awake. He growled into a radio on his shoulder. We need backup. Lila grabbed Aiden's hand, pulling him to his feet. We have to go. They bolted out of the library, the flash drive still in Aiden's hand. They didn't stop running until they reached an alley behind a row of shops. Aiden leaned against the wall, panting. That was close. Lila's hands were still shaking. They know about the flash drive now. They won't stop. Aiden looked at her, his eyes fierce. Then we find this Elias. He might be the only one who can help us. Lila nodded, her fear mixing with determination. Then that's what we do. We find him, and we end this. In the distance, sirens wailed again. But this time Lila didn't feel like running. For the first time, she felt ready to fight. The city felt heavier that night, like the streets themselves were watching. Lila and Aiden sat on the back steps of a closed diner, trying to catch their breath after hours of hiding. The flash drive felt like a weight in Aiden's pocket, both a key and a curse. Leela pulled her knees close to her chest, her fingers brushing over the faint glow of her mark under her shirt. It had stopped burning for now, but every time she thought of the men in the library, it felt like embers stirring inside her. Elias, she whispered, breaking the silence. Aiden turned his head toward her. Yeah, we have to find him if he's one of them. Like me, he might know how to control it, or why they want us. Aiden nodded. The files mentioned him being active. That has to mean he's alive, and maybe even using his power. He glanced at her, his voice firm. If he's out there, we'll find him. But how? She asked, frustration creeping into her tone. We don't even know where to start. That flash drive only gave us a name. Aiden reached into his pocket and pulled it out, rolling it between his fingers. Maybe there's more on here. We only scratched the surface at the library before they showed up. What if one of the other files has a location? Leela bit her lip. We can't risk another public computer. They'll track us. Then we find one they can't track. Aiden said a Noah place. Lila raised an eyebrow. You do? Aiden gave a small, almost embarrassed shrug. There's this guy I know. He lives in the old district, above a pawn shop. He's kind of a genius with tech. If anyone can unlock more from this drive, it's him. Leela frowned. And you trust him, as much as I trust anyone, Aiden said with a half smile, which isn't much, but he owes me a favor. Lila hesitated, but something in Aiden's tone told her there wasn't another choice. Okay, let's go. The walk to the old district took nearly an hour. The streets grew narrower and darker, lined with cracked brick buildings and flickering neon signs. They passed an alley where stray cats hissed at them from the shadows, and Lila kept glancing over her shoulder, half expecting to see the black van following them. Finally, Aiden stopped in front of a pawn shop with a broken sign that read Keller's. He knocked on the side door, which led up to the apartments above. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the door creaked open, revealing a lanky young man with messy blonde hair and glasses that kept sliding down his nose. Aiden, the man said, blinking. What are you doing here? Need a favor? Aiden said. The man frowned. Last time you said that, I ended up with 2 busted laptops and a cop at my door. This one's cleaner, Aiden promised. We just need a computer, and maybe your brain. The man looked past Aiden at Leela, his eyes narrowing. Who's she? Someone who needs help, Aiden said simply. The man sighed. Fine. Come in before the neighbors start asking questions. Inside, the apartment was a clutter of wires, screens, and half-assembled gadgets. Leela looked around, a little overwhelmed. This place is a disaster, the man said with a grin. Yeah, I know. I'm Keller. Leela, she said softly. Keller plopped down in front of a large monitor. All right, what's the deal? Aiden handed him the flash drive. We need to see everything on here. Can you open it without, setting off alarms? Keller plugged it in, his fingers flying across the keyboard. You're lucky I'm good at this. Most of these files are locked behind military-grade encryption. Where did you get this thing? Lane glanced at Lila. It belonged to her father. It's complicated. Keller raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. Within minutes, lines of code filled the screen. Gotcha, he muttered. All right, I'm in. Lila leaned closer. Can you find anything about Elias? Keller clicked through folders, opening documents and images. Whew! Project Helios. That's some creepy stuff. Yay, we know, Aiden said. Keller scrolled down a list of names. Aurelius, Voss. Subject 08. Location code looks like coordinates. He copied them onto a notepad. This points to somewhere outside the city. An old facility might be where they're keeping him. Lila's heart pounded. So he's alive, Keller shrugged. If these files are recent, yeah, but I'd be careful if you plan on going there. This looks like a restricted site. Not exactly a place you can just walk into. Aiden smirked. Good thing we're not great at following rules. Keller gave him a look. You're insane. Probably, Aiden said. Keller leaned back in his chair. Look, I'll give you the coordinates, but you didn't get them from me. And you better hope those people don't find you first. Whoever they are, they have serious resources. You don't want to end up like the kids in these files. Lila glanced at the screen, where images of marked children flickered. Her stomach turned. We have to try. We can't just leave him there. Keller sighed. Fine, but if you get caught, I don't know you. After copying the coordinates onto a scrap of paper, Aiden and Lila left the apartment. The night air felt colder now, heavier with the knowledge of where they had to go. We're really going to do this? Lila asked as they walked. Yeah, Aiden said. But we need a plan. We can't just show up at some secret facility and hope for the best. Lila nodded, though her chest tightened with fear. What if Elias doesn't want to help us? What if he's different? Then we'll deal with it, Aiden said. But we won't know until we get there. They spent the rest of the night planning in a small, abandoned cafe they found with broken windows and dusty booths. Aiden spread out a map, marking the coordinates Keller had given them. The location was far out in the hills, where no one would accidentally stumble across it. Looks like there's only one road in, Aiden said. We'll have to go on foot for the last few miles. Easier to stay unnoticed that way. Lila stared at the map, her finger tracing the spot. Do you think my father knows about this place? Probably, Aiden said. But if he's still fighting them, we can't wait for him. We have to move now. Lila took a deep breath. Okay, let's do it. The next day they left the city behind, hitching a ride in the back of a delivery truck headed toward the outskirts. Lila kept her hood up and her hands in her pockets, feeling the marks start to tingle again, as if sensing what lay ahead. By nightfall, they were hiking through dense woods, the road to the facility just visible in the distance. Aiden carried a backpack with water, a flashlight, and the flash drive tucked safely inside. Almost there, he said quietly. Lila's legs ached, but she pushed forward. Every step brought her closer to Elias and to the answers she needed. Finally, they reached a ridge overlooking a chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. Beyond it, a cluster of low, gray buildings sat in the valley, surrounded by floodlights. There it is, Aiden whispered. Lila's breath caught. How do we get in? Aiden scanned the perimeter. There's a drainage tunnel on the west side. Looks small, but maybe we can squeeze through. Before they could move, a sound made them freeze. Voices. They ducked behind a fallen tree, just as two guards walked past, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Keep your eyes open, one of them said. Command thinks the girl might try to find this place. Lila's heart pounded. Aiden grabbed her hand, holding her still until the guards disappeared. They're expecting us, she whispered. Aiden gave a grim smile. Then we'll just have to surprise them. They waited until the guards were gone, then crept toward the drainage tunnel. It was barely wide enough to crawl through, but Aiden went first, pulling Lila along behind him. The tunnel was damp and cold, the smell of rust and earth filling the air. Lila tried to keep quiet, but every scrape of her knees against the metal echoed. Finally, they emerged inside the fence, crouched behind a stack of crates near one of the buildings. This is it, Aiden said softly. Now we find Elias. Lila looked up at the building, her chest tight. What if we're too late? Then we make sure we're not, Aiden said. But before they could move, a voice rang out behind them. Well, the voice drawled. Look who walked right into the lion's den. Lila spun around to see a man standing in the shadows, flanked by two armed guards. His eyes gleamed as he smiled. We've been waiting for you, Lila. Her mark began to burn. The man's voice sent a chill straight through Lila's spine. The way he said her name, calm and confident, like he'd known her all her life, made her want to run, but her legs refused to move. Aiden instinctively stepped in front of her, his fists clenched. Who are you? He demanded, his voice low but fierce. The man stepped out of the shadows, his face sharp and cold, his dark coat swaying in the breeze. Two guards flanked him with rifles held casually at their sides. My name isn't important, the man said with a smirk, but I'm the one who's been looking for you, Lila, and you just made it a lot easier for us by coming here. Aiden tightened his stance, ready to fight, but Lila grabbed his arm. She could feel the heat rising from her mark again, like it was sensing danger. Stay calm, she whispered. The man raised an eyebrow as his gaze settled on Aiden. You must be the boy who's been helping her. Brave? Stupid, but brave. I wonder if you even know what she really is. Aiden glared at him. I know enough to know she's not yours. The man chuckled softly. Oh, but she is. That mark on her body, it's ours. It's what binds her to us, whether she likes it or not. You can't run from what's inside you, Lila. Lila's chest tightened. I'm not yours, she said, forcing her voice to stay steady, and you'll never take me. The man tilted his head, his smile widening. We'll see about that. Before Aiden could react, one of the guards lunged forward, striking him in the stomach with the butt of his rifle. Aiden gasped and doubled over, but didn't fall. He swung a punch, catching the guard across the jaw, but the second guard grabbed him from behind. Aiden, Lila screamed, rushing forward, but the man held up a hand. Try anything, he said smoothly, and he won't walk out of here. Lila froze, her mark burning like fire under her skin. The heat pulsed through her veins, demanding to be unleashed, but she forced herself to stay still. Aiden's eyes met hers, silently urging her not to do something reckless. Good girl, the man said softly. Now, you're going to come with us. We have someone you need to meet. Lila swallowed hard. Hoot! The man's smile darkened. Someone just like you. Her heart skipped. Elias, the man's smirk deepened. So you've heard of him? Yes. Elias is waiting, and he's been asking about you. Confusion and fear tangled inside Lila. Why would Elias, another subject, ask about her? Was he trapped? Or was he part of them now? The guards shoved Aiden forward, forcing them to walk toward the facility. Lila's mind raced as they passed through the gates and into the main building. The walls were gray and sterile, lined with security cameras that followed their every move. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a cold white glow on everything. The man led them down a narrow hallway to a heavy metal door. He pressed his hand against a scanner, and the door hissed open. Welcome to Helios, he said with a hint of pride. Inside, the room looked like a lab. Tables were covered with strange devices, machines with glowing panels, needles, and wires. Screens on the walls displayed images of children with marks like hers, their faces blank with fear. Lila's breath hitched. This is where you do it, isn't it? This is where you hurt them? The man glanced at her, his smile never fading. Hurt. We unlock them. We help them reach their full potential. You'll see. Not interested, Aiden muttered through clenched teeth. The man ignored him and gestured toward a glass door at the far end of the room. He's waiting for you. Lila's hand shook as she stepped closer. Through the glass, she saw a figure sitting on a bench, his head bowed. He looked about her age, maybe a year older, with messy dark hair and pale skin. A faint glow pulsed from his neck, where a mark burned bright like molten metal. Elias, the man called, his voice soft and coaxing. Look who came to see you. The boy raised his head, and Lila's breath caught. His eyes were sharp, glowing faintly gold around the edges. He stared at her like he'd been expecting her all along. She's real, Elias said in a voice that was smooth but carried an edge. The girl with the fire. Lila felt frozen under his gaze. You know me. Not yet, Elias said with a small, strange smile. But I've seen you in my dreams. You and I, we're the same. The man stepped between them, looking pleased. You see? Even he knows. The two of you were chosen for something greater. You're not just children. You're the future. Aiden stepped forward, his anger flaring. She's not your experiment, and neither is he. The man's smile vanished. You really don't understand, do you? This isn't about choice. It's about survival. These marks are not random. They are keys to power that could burn this entire world down if left unchecked. We are the only ones who can control it. Control? Lila spat. You mean chain us up and use us. The man's eyes darkened. You'll thank me one day when you realize what you are capable of. Lila turned back to Elias. Is this true? Do you want to be here? Elias stood slowly, his mark glowing brighter. I used to think I did. I thought they could help me understand the fire inside me, but all they do is try to twist it. They want us to fight for them, to burn for them. His golden eyes met. Hers. You don't belong to them any more than I do. Something inside Lila shifted. Then help us get out, she said. Elias smirked faintly. I was wondering when you'd ask. The man's expression hardened. Don't listen to him. He's unstable. Unstable, Elias said with a low laugh. You're just afraid I'll show her what she can really do. Before anyone could react, Elias raised his hand. A surge of light and heat exploded from his palm, shattering the glass wall between them. The man shouted and ducked his shards, flew across the room. Run, Elias shouted to Lila. Aiden grabbed her hand, and they bolted toward the hallway. But alarms began blaring, red lights flashing overhead. Guards poured into the corridor with weapons drawn. Go, Aiden yelled. I'll hold them. No, Lila screamed, pulling him along. We stick together. Elias caught up with them, his mark blazing like a second sun. Follow me, he said. I know another way out. They sprinted down the hall, Elias blasting doors open with bursts of light, while Aiden kept a tight grip on Lila's hand. Her mark responded to Elias's power, glowing hotter and stronger with every step. Where are we going? Lila shouted over the alarms. Down, Elias said. There's a maintenance tunnel under the east wing. They turned a corner, only to find 3 guards blocking the path. Aiden stopped short, his fists tightening. I'll handle this, Elias said with a grin. He raised both hands, and a wave of golden fire shot forward, forcing the guards to drop their weapons and dive for cover. Come on, he shouted. They reached a heavy steel hatch in the floor. Elias kicked it open and dropped down the ladder, motioning for them to follow. Lila hesitated. Where does this go? Out, Elias said simply. With no time to argue, Lila climbed down, Aiden close behind her. The tunnel below was narrow and dark, the smell of damp earth and metal filling the air. Keep moving, Elias said, his voice echoing as they ran. Lila couldn't stop glancing at him. There was something wild in his eyes, something both terrifying and magnetic. He moved like someone who had spent his whole life running and fighting. You've been here a long time, haven't you? She asked breathlessly. Too long, Elias said. But I knew one day you'd come. You're the only one who can stop them. Me, Lila said. Stunned. Elias glanced at her, his golden eyes glowing faintly in the dark. You have the strongest mark I've ever seen. They fear you, Lila. That's why they want you. Lila's chest tightened. I don't even know how to control it. You will, Elias said with a small, knowing smile. I'll teach you, if we survive. They reached the end of the tunnel, where a rusted grate blocked their way. Elias ripped it off with a burst of heat, and they emerged into the cold night air beyond the facility's perimeter. Lila collapsed onto the grass, gasping for breath. Aiden knelt beside her, his face pale but determined. We made it, he said. Not yet, Elias said, glancing back toward the facility. They'll be coming after us. We need to keep moving. Lila looked at him, her heart pounding. Where will we go? Elias's eyes burned with resolve. Someplace they can't find us. And then, Lila, we burn them to the ground. Lila. Breath caught at his words. Something about the fire in his voice stirred something deep in her. Something that scared her and thrilled her all at once. But in the distance, sirens were already wailing, and the sound of engines rumbled closer. The forest swallowed them whole as they ran. Branches scratched Lila's arms, the cold air burning her lungs, but she didn't stop. Elias led the way, moving like he'd memorized every shadow, every route. Aiden followed close behind her, his breathing heavy but steady. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, growing softer as they put more ground between themselves and the Helios facility. Lila's mark burned faintly beneath her top, but it was no longer painful, just alive, humming with energy, as if Elias's presence woke something inside her. When they finally stopped, they were deep in the woods, far from any road. Lila collapsed against a tree, her chest heaving. We can't keep this pace forever, she said between breaths. They'll track us. Elias crouched, scanning the dark trees around them. His glowing eyes dimmed slightly. Not tonight. We've bought time. Aiden frowned. What makes you so sure? Because I know how they think, Elias said, his voice calm but sharp. I was their weapon once. I know their tactics, their routes, their hesitation. Lila swallowed hard, watching him. What do you mean, you were their weapon? Elias turned his gaze on her. I wasn't always locked in that room you saw. For years, they used me. I burned for them. I killed for them. I did whatever they told me to because I didn't know any better. But then I realized they don't care about us. We're just tools to them. Broken tools if we don't obey. His words sent a shiver down Lila's spine. And now, I want them gone, Elias said. His expression softened as he looked at her. And you, Lila, you're the only one strong enough to do it with me. Aiden's jaw tightened. She's not your soldier. She's not like you. Elias raised an eyebrow. You think you know her better than I do. Look at her, Aiden. That fire inside hurts, the same as mine, and you can't put it out. It will burn until she learns to use it. Lila felt the heat rise under her skin. Aiden stepped closer, his voice sharp. She doesn't need you telling her what she is. Elias smirked. And you do? What are you, Aiden? Just a boy playing hero. You have no idea what she's carrying inside her. Stop it, Lila said, stepping between them. We don't have time for this. Elias's gaze softened when it met hers. You're right, but you have to choose, Lila. Are you going to run forever, or are you going to fight? Her chest tightened. She remembered the terrified faces in those files, the children who never escaped. Maybe Elias was right. Maybe running would never be enough. Where would we even start? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Elias's golden eyes glimmered in the dark. We start by finding the others, the ones like us. There are more, Lila. I've seen their names. If we can bring them together, we can take Helios apart. Lila's breath caught. The others. You mean the kids from the photos? Yes, Elias said. Some of them are still out there, hiding, waiting. We're stronger together than alone. Aiden shook his head. This is insane. We barely got out alive. And now you want to start a war. Elias's gaze hardened. What would you rather do? Hide in some alley until they find her? Because they will. They won't stop until she's either dead or in their control. Aiden's jaw clenched. He didn't answer. Lila looked between them, her heart racing. She knew Elias was dangerous, maybe even reckless, but there was something undeniable in his voice. A spark of truth she couldn't ignore. Where do we go? She asked finally. Elias smiled faintly. There's a safe place. An old cabin, deep in the woods, far from any roads. It's where I ran when I first escaped. We can rest there and plan our next move. Lila glanced at Aiden, who looked reluctant but nodded. Fine, but I don't trust him, he muttered under his breath. Elias heard but didn't respond. He just started walking. The night was long, and the forest seemed endless. Lila's legs ached, and every crack of a branch made her jump. But Elias never slowed. His confidence was unnerving, like he belonged to the shadows themselves. By dawn, they reached a clearing where a small, weathered cabin stood, half hidden by overgrown vines. Elias pushed the creaky door open and gestured for them to enter. Inside, it was dusty but safe. A single bed sat in the corner, a broken table in the middle of the room. The faint smell of smoke and old wood lingered in the air. "This is where you lived?" Lila asked, looking around. "For a while," Elias said. "It's not much, but no one knows it's here. We can breathe for now." Lila sank onto the bed, exhausted. Aiden sat near the table, watching Elias warily as he started a small fire. In the old stone fireplace, as the flames grew, Elias turned to Lila. "You need to learn how to control it," he said quietly. She looked up at him. "Control what?" "The fire inside you," Elias said. "The mark isn't just a brand. It's a door. If you don't open it on your terms, it will open on its own end. It will destroy you." Lila swallowed hard. "I don't even know where to start." "I can teach you," Elias said, stepping closer. He extended his hand, palm up. A faint golden flame danced above his skin, swirling like liquid light. "I know what it feels like, to be scared of it, but once you understand it, the fear fades." Lila stared at the flame, mesmerized. Slowly, she reached out, her fingers brushing the heat. It didn't burn. It felt alive, like it was reaching back to her. "Close your eyes," Elias said softly. She hesitated, then obeyed. "Breathe," he murmured. "Feel the mark. Let it show you what it wants." At first, there was only darkness. Then, deep inside her chest, she felt the fire. It was small, like a heartbeat of heat, but it pulsed stronger when she focused. "Don't fight it," Elias said. "Invite it. Let it move through you." Lila gasped as the warmth spread through her veins. She felt the fire rise to her hands, and when she opened her eyes, a faint glow flickered in her palms. "You see," Elias said with a grin. "You're not helpless." Lila stared at the light, amazed and terrified. I can't control it. What if I hurt someone?" "You won't," Elias said firmly. "Not if you trust yourself." Aiden stood, his expression tense. "Enough," he said sharply. "She's exhausted. She doesn't need to be playing with fire right now." Elias's smile faded slightly, but he didn't argue. "Fine, but the sooner she learns, the safer she'll be." Lila looked between them, torn. Aiden's protectiveness gave her comfort, but Elias's words stirred something deeper. For the first time, she felt like someone truly understood what she was. They spent the rest of the day resting and gathering what little supplies the cabin had. Lila tried to sleep, but her dreams were filled with fire-burning cities, children screaming, and a voice whispering her name. When she awoke, Elias was sitting near the fire, staring into the flames with a haunted expression. "Elias?" she asked softly. He looked at her, his golden eyes glowing faintly. "Do you know why they fear us, Lila?" She shook her head. "Because we're more powerful than they are. The marks aren't just experiments, they're ancient. They come from something older than Helios, something they don't understand. That's why they brand us, to control us. But if we break that control," his voice trailed off, a dark smile curling his lips, "we could burn their world down." Lila's chest tightened. Part of her wanted to believe him. Part of her was terrified he might be right. Before she could respond, Aiden walked in, his face grim. "We have a problem," he said. Lila's heart sank. "What now?" "They're close," Aiden said. "I saw a drone flying low near the tree line. They're searching for us." Elias stood, his eyes blazing. "Then we don't run, we fight." Lila froze. "Fight? There's too many of them." "Not if we use what we have," Elias said, his voice firm. "You and me, Lila. Together?" Aiden shook his head. "This is exactly what they want. A fight. We need to move before they find us." Lila felt the heat rise in her chest again, the mark pulsing like a warning. She didn't know what to do, but the sound of engines in the distance told her they were running out of time. Elias turned to her. "Choose, Lila. Run with him, or fight with me." Her breath caught. She looked at Aiden, who stared back at her, his expression a mix of fear and determination. Then she looked at Elias, who burned like the fire inside her. A shadow moved in the trees outside. "They're here," Aiden whispered. The crack of branches outside the cabin made Lila's heart lurch into her throat. She froze, her breath shallow, as the distant hum of engines grew louder. Aiden immediately grabbed the makeshift bat he'd carved from a broken table leg, his jaw tight with tension. Elias stood at the window, the faint golden light of his mark glowing brighter with every passing second. "They're coming," he said softly, almost with anticipation, like a predator waiting for the hunt to begin. Lila's eyes darted between them. "We can't stay here," she whispered. "They'll burn this place down with us inside." Elias turned to her, his expression calm but fierce. "No, we don't run anymore. This is where we make our stand. Make our stand." Aiden snapped, his voice cutting through the tension. "We barely got out of that facility alive. And you want to fight them here? Are you insane?" Elias didn't flinch. "If we keep running, they'll just keep chasing. We have the power to stop them, Aiden. Or would you rather keep hiding until they drag her away in chains?" Aiden's grip on the bat tightened. "You think you know what's best for her, but you don't. You're reckless. You're dangerous." Lila stepped between them, her voice trembling but steady. "Stop it, both of you. We don't have time for this." She could feel her mark throbbing against her skin, as if it sensed the danger approaching. The warmth spread up her chest, urging her to act. The sound of footsteps echoed outside, crunching leaves, moving closer. Leela's pulse quickened. Through the cracked wooden shutters, she saw the faint glow of flashlights weaving through the trees. "They're surrounding us," Aiden said in a low voice. Ilias's lips curved into a grim smile. "Then they're right where I want them." Before Aiden could argue, Elias raised his hand, and a sudden burst of golden light exploded from his palm, shattering the window. The guards outside shouted in surprise, their flashlights jerking wildly in the dark. "Elias," Lila cried. "They'll come in anyway," Elias said, his voice sharp but calm. "Better to strike first." The cabin door rattled as someone tried to force it open. Aiden stepped in front of Leela, gripping the bat like it was his last weapon on earth. "Stay behind me," he muttered. "No," Leela said, her voice firmer than she expected. "I can't hide anymore." The door burst open with a deafening crack, and 3 men stormed inside, rifles raised. Before they could fire, Elias moved. His mark flared like the sun, and a wall of golden fire erupted between them and the intruders. The guards stumbled back, shielding their faces from the heat. "Go," Elias shouted. "Get out the back." But Leela didn't move. Something inside her snapped, like the fire in her veins was done waiting. Her mark blazed, heat radiating from her skin. Without thinking, she raised her hand, and a wave of shimmering light shot out, knocking one of the guards off his feet. Aiden stared at her, stunned. "Lila, I can do this," she said through clenched teeth, though her body trembled with the effort. The heat was almost unbearable, but it felt like something deep inside her was finally awake. Ilias's grin widened. "That's it, don't hold back." The remaining guards opened fire, bullets tearing through the air. Aiden dragged Lila to the ground, shielding her with his body as splinters exploded from the walls. Elias raised both hands, forming a glowing barrier that caught the bullets mid-air, melting them into molten drops. "We need to move," Aiden yelled. Elias nodded, then blasted the wall behind them, creating a hole big enough to crawl through. "Go now." Aiden pushed Leela through first, then followed, while Elias covered their escape with another surge of fire. They tumbled into the damp grass outside, the smell of smoke filling the air as the cabin began to burn. Lila coughed, struggling to catch her breath. "Where do we go?" "Follow me," Elias said, sprinting toward the trees. They ran blindly through the forest, the sound of shouts and engines close behind. The fire from the cabin cast an orange glow against the night sky, lighting their path in eerie flashes. Lila's legs ached, but she forced herself forward, every muscle screaming. She could feel the fire still humming inside her, ready to burst. At any moment, Aiden stayed close, glancing back every few seconds to make sure they weren't being overtaken. After what felt like forever, they reached a rocky outcrop overlooking a narrow ravine. Elias stopped abruptly, scanning the area. "This way," he said, pointing to a hidden path that wound down the slope. They scrambled down, stones slipping under their feet. The ravine was narrow and dark, shielded by thick trees that muffled the sound of pursuit. For the first time, Lila felt like they might have a chance. But then, a voice echoed from above. "Lila," she froze. It was cold, sharp, and unmistakable. Her father. Aiden grabbed her arm. "Don't stop. It's a trap." But Lila couldn't move. She looked up at the ridge, and there he was, her father, standing tall with a rifle slung over his shoulder and a look of grim determination on his face. "Leela, listen to me," he called. "You don't understand what you're doing. Those powers, they'll kill you if you don't let me help." Elias stepped in front of her, his voice like steel. "He's lying. He's one of them." Lila's chest tightened. "No, he's my father. He's Helios," Elias spat. "He'll drag you back there and lock you in a cage like the rest of us." Her father's eyes flicked to Elias, his jaw tightening. "You don't know what you're talking about, boy. I've spent years trying to protect her from you people." Aiden looked between them, his grip on Lila's hand firm. "We don't have time for this. They're coming." Lila's mind whirled. Her father's eyes were desperate, but Elias's words rang in her ears. She didn't know who to believe anymore. "Come to me, Lila," her father said, his voice softening. "I can explain everything. You don't have to run anymore." Ilias's mark blazed. "Don't listen. If you go to him, you'll never see the outside world again." The sound of engines grew closer. Lila's pulse pounded in her ears as both men stared at her, waiting for her choice. Her father took a cautious step forward. "Please, Lila, I'm not your enemy." "Prove it," Elias snapped. Before anyone could move, a gunshot rang out from the woods. A bullet struck the ground near Ilias's feet, spraying dirt. Shouts followed. Helios guards had found them. "Go," Aiden yelled, yanking Leela toward the ravine's path. Elias raised his hands, sending a wave of fire toward the advancing guards. Her father shouted something she couldn't hear, as the world became chaos, gunfire, shouting, and the roar of Ilias's flames. Lila stumbled after Aiden, her mind spinning. She didn't know if her father was telling the truth, or just another trap. But she couldn't stop now. As they reached the bottom of the ravine, Elias caught up with them, his face grim and eyes glowing like embers. You can't hesitate like that, he said harshly. It'll get you killed. Lila's voice shook. He's my father, Elias. Elias's expression softened slightly, but his tone remained firm. Then you better hope he's on our side, because if he's not, you'll have to choose. Lila's breath caught. Choose, between him, Elias said, and us. The forest had gone eerily quiet after the chaos of the gunfire. Lila, Aiden, and Elias crouched in the shadows of the ravine, every breath loud in their ears. The smell of burned earth clung to the air from Elias's flames, and somewhere in the distance Lila thought she heard her father calling her name again. She hugged her knees to her chest, trembling. Aiden crouched beside her, his hand gripping her shoulder as if to ground her. Elias stood slightly apart, his golden eyes scanning the tree line like a predator. We can't stay here, he said. They'll find us if we wait. Aiden looked up sharply. She needs a moment. Elias's gaze flicked to Lila, softer, but still edged with urgency. A moment might cost her life. Helios doesn't stop. Lila raised her head, swallowing hard. He was there, she whispered. My dad. He was there. Elias? Elias's jaw tightened. I know, he said. He could help me, Lila continued, her voice shaking. He didn't look like one of them. He looked scared. Scared. Elias scoffed. Of what you are. Maybe, but he's part of Helios, whether he admits it or not. He was at that facility for a reason, Lila. Aiden glanced at her. What if he's telling the truth? What if he really was trying to protect you? Lila's chest ached. Memories of her father flashed in her mind, his warm smile, his tired eyes after long nights working, the way he always told her she was stronger than she believed. But then, there were the lies, the flash drive, the way he never explained the mark on her skin. Maybe I need to hear him out, she said quietly. Elias stepped closer, his eyes blazing. No, you can't trust him. He'll twist your mind, make you think you're broken. That's what they do. Lila met his gaze, her voice trembling but steady. How do I know you're not twisting me, too? For a moment, Elias didn't answer. His expression faltered, and something unreadable passed across his face. Because I'm like you, he said finally, his voice low. I have no reason to lie to you. I want you free, Lila. Can you say the same about him? Before Lila could respond, the crunch of footsteps sounded above them. Elias's head snapped up, and Aiden grabbed Lila's arm, pulling her deeper into the shadows. A voice rang out, steady but commanding. Lila, please. I know you're there. I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to talk. Her fatherly breath caught Elias's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. Don't, he whispered fiercely. He's baiting you. Let me go, she whispered back, her heart pounding. Lila, her father called again, his voice rough but urgent. I know you're scared, but you don't understand what they're doing. Elias isn't who you think he is. Lila froze. What? Elias's face hardened. He's lying. Aiden looked between them, tense. Maybe we should listen to him before this turns into another fight. Elias's jaw clenched, but he didn't protest. Lila, her father's voice, came again, closer now. If you can hear me, I'm going to tell you the truth. Helios. Helios isn't just a company. It's older. It's a network of people who have been studying these marks for decades. I used to work for them, yes, but only because I had no choice. They were after you from the day you were born. Lila's eyes widened. From when I was born? Don't listen, Elias hissed. But Lila's world was spinning. Why? Why me? She called out before she could stop herself. There was silence for a beat. Then her father answered, his voice heavy. Because your mother had it too. The words slammed into Lila like a punch. Her mother, she'd died when Lila was barely old enough to remember her, but her father never talked about her. She had the mark, Lila whispered, stunned. Yes, her father said. She was one of them, the gifted, but she didn't want to be controlled. We ran, Lila. We tried to hide you, but when she died, I knew they'd come for you. That's why I kept you away from all of this. I wanted to keep you safe. Elias's expression darkened. Safe. By lying to her. By letting her grow up thinking she was just some normal girl while Helios hunted her. Better than turning her into a weapon, her father snapped, his voice echoing through the ravine. The silence that followed was suffocating. Lila's hands shook as she tried to process the flood of information. You both talk like you know what's best for me, she said, her voice trembling. But what about what I want? Aiden's hand tightened on hers. What do you want, Lila? She shook her head, tears burning her eyes. I don't know anymore. Suddenly, the sound of engines roared closer, and shouts echoed from the ridge. Elias's face went cold. We don't have time for this. Her father's voice grew urgent. Lila, come with me now. Please, I can get you somewhere safe. I can explain everything. But if you stay with Elias, he'll drag you into his war. He's dangerous. Dangerous. Elias's voice rose, harsh and fiery. I'm the only reason she's alive right now. Your safe little lies wouldn't have saved her at that facility. Enough, Lila shouted, the fire inside her. Surging, both men went silent. Staring at her, the mark on her chest burned so brightly that she could feel the heat radiating from it, as if it were choosing for her. She stepped forward, her voice shaking. If you want me to trust you, she said to her father, then prove it. Tell me what Helios really wants with me. There was a long pause. Her father sighed, his voice heavy. Helios believes the marks are the key to something ancient, something called the Ember Core. It's power beyond anything you can imagine, power that could either save or destroy this world. They believe you're the one who can unlock it. Lila felt the blood drain from her face. Me, yes, her father said. Your mother had the same ability, but she never learned to control it. That's why she died. Ilias's eyes narrowed. Don't listen, he's twisting the truth, am I? Her father shot back. Do you even know what the Ember Core is, Elias? Or are you just another lost kid playing with fire? Ilias's mark flared angrily. I know enough to know they'll use her to unleash it, and when they do, nothing will survive. Lila's knees felt weak. What if he's right? She whispered to Aiden. Aiden's eyes were full of concern. Then we figure it out together. You don't have to trust either of them blindly. Just trust yourself. Lila looked at Elias, whose fiery gaze softened slightly when it met hers. Then she looked at her father, who stood at the top of the ravine, his arms open, as if waiting for her to choose. Lila, her father said softly. Please. The engines were growing louder again. Time was running out. Aiden leaned closer. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. The heat inside Lila grew, until it felt like it might consume her. For a moment, the forest around her blurred. She saw flashes of fire, screams, and a blinding light that seemed to come from her own hands. She took a shaky breath. I think I need answers, she whispered. Ilias's face darkened. If you go with him, you'll never get the truth. You'll only get the story they want you to believe. Her father's voice was desperate now. If you go with Elias, you'll become exactly what Helios wants, a weapon. I won't let that happen. The first shot cracked through the trees, hitting the ground near her feet. Guards were closing in fast. Lila turned to Aiden, panic in her eyes. What do I do? Before he could answer, Elias grabbed her wrist. Come with me now. At the same time, her father shouted, Lila, run to me. The world felt like it split in two as both men reached for her, one hand promising freedom, the other safety.